Hi, everyone, and welcome to this next session. I'm super excited to discuss the future of sustainable fashion with Sandra of Good On You. Erica and Sara from MooShoes are also joining us. We are going to give them an opportunity to introduce themselves right now. Why don't you start off, Sandra? Tell us what you do and why you do what you do.
I'm the co-founder of Good On You. It's really cool to be joining you here today to have this really important conversation, but also from all of our corners of the world. I'm in Melbourne, Australia. But I'm the co-founder of Good On You, which is a global company. We're all about fashion brands for their impact on the things a lot of us care about. We rate fashion brands for their impact on people, the planet, and animals, so that shoppers can make choices and that we can tap into the power of these choices that we have and we make every day to really shift the industry to be more sustainable. We started in Australia back in 2015, and within 10 days we had something 10,000 downloads, so we knew we were onto something. And since then we've been running like at 1,000,000 miles an hour to make new available globally. It's now used by millions of people every year all over the world. We've now thousands of fashion brands that people can look up to know the impact of their choices and to make better choices. And we're working now more and more with retailers and industry to actually measure and improve their sustainability and actually reach those of us that care about these issues.
Awesome. Erica, why don't you tell us what you do?
So I am, along with Sara, I'm one of the founders of MooShoes. We are an all-vegan retail store based in New York City. Our focus is mainly on shoes, but as the years have gone on, we've definitely expanded to other accessories that people are looking for in terms of things that the more common things that normally have animal products in them. And so like just listening to what people are having the hardest time finding and just adding those things to our line. We've been at it since 2001, which sometimes seems like yesterday and sometimes seems like 1,000,000 years ago. And, you know, it's just we came at it from just being ethical vegans ourselves from a very young age and kind of gave up leather as teenagers and just looking for those alternatives ourselves and kind of always said, well, we're going to open a store to cater to our needs one day. And that's what we did.
Awesome. Sara, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, as Erica said, we're going on almost 20 years doing this, and we've watched everything evolve over the years, and it's been a really fantastic ride the whole way. So, you know, we ventured out into other projects as well. We opened Orchard Grocer next door, and we also try to make that as ethical as possible too. And we co-own Modern Love in Brooklyn, but I know today is about MooShoes, so just wanted to throw in those other projects as well.
I'm big fans of all three, so happy to touch upon all of them. Let's talk a little bit about trends. Maybe Sara and Erica, you can start. What are you seeing in the last couple of years? What you said you started with shoes. What led to other product categories?
I mean, you know, I think it was like our personal, you know, I think for shoes, we expanded that into, you know, I think when we first opened our store, it was like probably 20 kinds of shoes. And then I think just expanding the shoe market as much as possible, you know, like really listening to our customers and realizing that like there's a huge group of people looking for these shoes, and it's just not people who are exactly like us. So it's not only what we're looking for, it's what, so just listening to that and expanding our line that way. You know, and then as far as, you know, and then like winter coats, that was always finding something that would keep you warm and didn't contain animal products and was ethically made it was a growing challenge every year. So we decided to add that to our inventory, and then, maybe, not necessarily a one-stop shop, but, maybe one less stop you have to make. So for us, I think it's just been about like listening to our customers and exactly what are they looking for, and just adding those products as the need comes about.
And I'm curious, and Sara, if you would like to comment, I'm curious, what is your demographic? Are you seeing more and more non-vegans, buying your product? Are you seeing mostly vegans? What does that breakup look like?
I definitely, in our retail store, just a lot of people in the neighborhood come in and they just see a pair of shoes in the window and they get excited for it, particularly with certain brands. They recognize those outside of the vegan market. So I think that's what's so nice about us having like a brick and mortar store, is that we do really get to pull in people who may not even be aware of it. So that's really nice. Although, like, obviously online shopping is really strong right now. But people are coming in, and we've received some shoes that we're getting really good feedback from, like, people shopping in our store. Obviously, only a couple of people at a time, the doors open, and we're very careful about that. But yeah.
Awesome. We are getting a little bit of feedback, so if we're on mute when we're not speaking, I think we might be able to avoid it. My next question is to Sandra. You being at a 20,000-foot view with all these brands on your platform, how is plant-based doing? What are you seeing? Are you seeing a revolution as much as we are seeing in food, for example?
Yeah, I think even in just the 5 years that Good On You has been around, it's nothing on the 20 years of Erica and Sara, but I do feel we've seen a lot of change in that time. We started in the wake of the Rana Plaza collapse, which was a tragedy in Bangladesh that killed over 1,000 people making clothes because their work conditions were so unsafe. And so the primary concern for a lot of people that were using Good On You and a lot of people that were becoming aware of the issues in fashion was around labour rights and protecting humans. But definitely since then, I think there's been a much broader understanding of the issues, and within that specifically, the impact on animals in making clothes, and how that is not only a concern for the welfare of animals, a major concern for the welfare of animals, but also has a huge environmental impact. And so many of the people that use Good On You care about these issues, and we've just seen that growing and growing and growing, so that more and more people are using our tool to find vegan brands, but also to find brands that are touching all of those complex interrelated issues in fashion, which is why we break our rating into a rating for people, planet, animals.
Do you think that a brand that claims to be sustainable can be if their products aren't plant-based?
There are alternatives, for instance, using recycled materials or recycled leather as an example, where, I think the term being an ethical or sustainable brand, it's a really hard thing to do. There's not many examples of brands that have figured it out, and as an industry, we're still learning about all of those social and environmental impacts, and so being a truly sustainable brand, I'm not sure if we can coin anybody as that, but there are some really cool innovations. I've even heard of startups that are working on creating leather in the lab, where similar to what's happening in the food industry, That could also be another way where not being. I mean, maybe it's still technically plant-based, but it's the use of animal materials in a different way that completely avoids harm to animals.
How do you see this, Erica and Sarah? How do you define sustainable?
Yeah, I mean, it's just listening to Sandra, it's insane seeing how they started from an environmental perspective. We were just talking about, Sarah and I were just talking about how when we opened our store, it was basically from just a animal rights perspective. And this was, just to whatever it was 20 years ago. So, we didn't even realize the bigger sustainable factor that went into making some of the shoes. While there were a lot of incidentally non-leather shoes available, it didn't occur to us even at the time what damage those shoes could be doing. And that's actually something that one of the great parts about having a retail store and learning stuff from your customers and how much of that stuff they've introduced to us and how much of that message we've been able to take forward. We have a line of shoes that we manufacture ourselves called Novacas. And like Sandra was saying, I wouldn't say these are shoes that are 100% perfect for the environment, but I know that we are putting as much thought into it as we possibly can, with the materials that we're using and manufacturing, and we're manufacturing a big part of our decision making, and just realizing that while there might be less expensive alternatives of where to produce, we were going to go with a place that we felt good about labor, and we were going to use materials that, while pricier, were going to have less of an impact on the environment. And just, and having those options and understanding that not everyone can, there's still going to be a price that some people, it's not going to be available to everybody, but just knowing what goes into making our shoes and what we were going to offer as far as sustainability. And so just not making, realizing that vegan isn't just vegan. It doesn't mean just not having animal products, and it's about how they're made and what they're made of, and just factoring all that into everything we sell now.
Got it. Thank you. We have a lot of, Sarah, do you know, please comment.
Oh, I was just going to add that, as Erica said, we, when we started manufacturing shoes, it really opened our eyes to, just the array of ways you could do it. And, we personally visited all the factories where our shoes are made, and I think we felt really good about it. And, whenever we were uncomfortable with something, we were just passing on it, because I think once you see, you can't unsee it. So.
I was curious to know what your strategy is regarding price point. I know that, and this is for everyone, often consumers will avoid sustainable brands because they are often found at a higher price point. What is it going to take to bring those price points down so that also sustainable products can be available at cheaper prices? Sandra, maybe you want to comment on this first.
I think people are starting to, reassess what a price is actually telling them about a product, and, come up with a different concept of value. We definitely, through our content and conversations with our community at Good On You, talk about this a lot, that, when something is at a really low price point, it sometimes raises red flags around, well, how exactly was that sourced? Who made it? What are the materials that are being used? Somebody somewhere down the chain is probably paying the cost for that really poor piece, or really cheap piece of clothing. And equally, if it is really cheap at the outset, how long is it going to last? Will it fall apart? And therefore, will you be having to invest in something new soon anyway, which instantly doubles your cost, and also means that you're then contributing to environmental problems, leaving things in landfill and contributing to the huge amounts of textile waste that the clothing industry produces. So if we, instead of, keep searching for cheaper items, take a step back and have have a think about why things are priced in a certain way and what the value of that garment will be for you over time. The cost per wear is, really good indicator of value. I think that, more and more people are starting to appreciate and means that we stop looking for that bargain or that really cheap garment and think about something we really will cherish over time and what that is worth to us. You're on mute, Noah.
My bad. What about you, Erica and Sara? What's your opinion? What's your strategy about bringing down the price point so that people that are more price sensitive can get involved?
I think. Oh, sorry. Go, Sara. You should go ahead.
No, I was just, hearing Sandra talk. People come into the store and they want, every criteria to be met. They want it to be vegan. They want it to be environmentally friendly, and they want it, it produced in a really ethical manner. And then it always comes down to price and how much they want to spend. And, I think that every consumer just has to, decide what is really important to them, and if they can spend the money and they could prioritize what means the most to them. And, I think a lot of our customers do come in from vegan, but then they start going down the list of other considerations too, and they get there too, maybe not initially, but eventually, especially when they get to compare the products that are available.
So we have a lot of founders in the audience, and I'm curious, launching a fashion brand in 2020, what does that look like? What are the opportunities? And maybe Sandra, you can comment first. Where are you seeing the most demand and the least amount of supply?
I think, it's been an interesting year for everybody in a number of different ways. When I guess you could say that the pandemic first hit in March, we were, like everybody, quite concerned about the future of sustainable fashion and whether it was the right time to still be advocating for something when there were seemingly so many other issues. But actually, we found that people are more motivated than ever to back brands doing the right thing, to back sustainable brands, to back local brands, to connect with the story of founders and brands that are, doing something really cool, like Erica and Sara. So we have actually had our strongest year on record at Good On You. We've seen something like a 20% growth in sessions from the period of April to June. We saw a doubling of conversions from Good On You digital channels to sustainable brands during that same period, all at a time when the rest of the fashion industry was really struggling. It was hard. It still is hard for many large mainstream retailers and brands. Some have had to actually shut their doors. Others are still filing for bankruptcy. The industry is really struggling, and that's terrible to see, but it's been so motivating and encouraging to see that those brands that were already, taking a stand on these issues, already showing leadership in protecting their workers, in protecting animals, in thinking about their environmental footprint. They're the ones that have continued to show strength, and they're the ones that it's been hitting our bottom line, and it's been hitting their bottom line. It's not just a nice story; it's a commercial one, and so I would hope that encourages other budding founders and entrepreneurs in this space that there is a very real market there, and it's continuing to show strength, and it's growing through this time.
So it's sounding less like a value add and more of an expectation from the consumer that you're taking sustainability into consideration when creating a product.
Yeah, and there's some key words there. It sort of touches on Sarah's point before around, price and style, convenience, all the other things that we care about when we're shopping for fashion are still important. You know, one of Good On You's unique insights, I think, is that we don't just talk about sustainability or plant-based issues and considerations in isolation. We're always talking about it in the context of fashion and all of those other things, affordability, location, that people care about, because it's sustainability, being vegan, it's for people, it's increasingly important, but it's always part of a broader consideration set.
Let's talk a little bit about funding. We have polar opposites here. We've got software, which is infinitely scalable, and then we've got 3 brick and mortar businesses, and I know you sell online as well. For entrepreneurs in the audience who are interested in more of the brick and mortar, Erica and Sara, can you kind of comment? A lot of people want to start a restaurant, want to open a store. Can you talk about how you went about raising the money to do so?
Well, with MooShoes, just it being a different, well, first of all, it being so long ago and it just being a different time and us being a different energy level because we were much younger, I think we started really small. I mean, we were really, we did it with our savings, which meant that we were just looking for inexpensive rent. We were literally the only employees for the first 2 or 3 years, and kind of doing it that way. But, I know with like our other businesses and it being a different time in our life, like that was no longer a possibility, like we needed the help of others. And so just realizing that we couldn't do it alone. But I think with all of our businesses, we've always just had the very hands-on mentality about it. So like we're small, but there's no job that we're not willing to do, within our businesses. So like, so that's kind of been like our ethos with like our businesses. Sara might be able to comment on this a bit more just because that's more of her department.
I think we've always stayed small. And when we were talking before about like the price that the consumer pays, when we started our line Novacus, our goal was to like wholesale and get a lot of accounts. And we started to get quite a few accounts, and we had gotten a big retailer, but it did come with like a lot of strings, and we almost weren't able to meet the demands they met. We were, thankfully, because I think it really would have bankrupted us had we not. But when we were wholesaling, our prices actually were higher than they are now for the shoes, just with the way we needed to do it, so that like we were priced similar to the other retailers. But when we decided we just couldn't do it anymore and we just sold like direct to customer, the prices were much more reasonable. And I think we were selling just as many shoes because the price was better, and we were able to produce the same item without those like added costs, even though I think beforehand we thought, if we were wholesaling, we were just going to make it and that was going to be like our dream. But it's been easier and less pressure, and I think just as lucrative to just be direct to customer.
And do you have investors in your business?
We do not. Erica and I are the only ones.
Very exciting. That's awesome. What about you, Sandra? How did you think about fundraising and finding your initial capital?
So Good On You is also a small team, but our mission was always about growing quickly and reaching millions of people, because it's with that sort of collective movement that we would actually shift industry. There was no point in us staying in Australia and servicing a niche group of people. We needed to be global, we needed to be far reaching, and we needed, to help millions of people change industry behavior. So we've explored many different investment avenues. Early on, we ran a couple of crowdfunding campaigns, one to get started in Australia and then one to officially launch into the US back in 2018, I believe, maybe 2017. And they were great avenues for us to test the waters, actually validate that we had a solution people wanted, as well as, of course, get some capital in the door from people that supported us from day one. It does take a lot of time and energy to pull off a crowdfunding campaign, but I think the payoff is worth it. You just need to make that trade-off for a period, really redirect all your team resources and your own personal energy into pulling that off. And I think what a lot of the founders in this space will have as an advantage is that purpose and that mission that's inspired you will likely inspire lots of other people. I think other different industries and organisations are still trying to figure out what their purpose and mission is and ways to engage their team and their customers. But it comes with I think, the plant-based mantra. We stand for something really cool that a lot of other we will want to back. So yeah, we ran a crowdfunding campaign. Then we raised, with our first raise was mainly with a handful of angels and close contacts. And then since then we've had another, I guess, seed investment round where we were looking for predominantly impact-focused investors, a mix of large funds as well as individuals, angel investors, high net worth individuals that also believed in our impact and our potential. It was actually challenging and still is challenging for us to raise in Australia. We're a tiny market here. We're really far away from the rest of the world. Sustainability and fashion was not trending here like it was in other places. And so we used also accelerator programs in other parts of the world as a way for us to get our foot in the door in other markets and build our networks and contacts in a really short period of time. The ROI for us on involvement in those programs was huge. And there's so many now around the world that hone in on a specific topic or part of the market. For us, a really pivotal one was called Fashion for Good in Amsterdam. That's all about driving sustainable fashion innovation. And yeah, I mean, being based there and being able to collaborate with the other startups and investors in the ecosystem ultimately led us to getting funding as well.
Awesome. So Erica and Sara, how do entrepreneurs, and you included, compete with bigger brands, as it sounds like sustainability is here to stay and it's something consumers are looking for? How do you stand out and how do you stay relevant in the next 5-10 years?
I think it's something we are always, I don't want to call it struggling, but something that's always in the back of our heads, and just constantly changing our business model with the times. And I think probably what's kept us strong for so long is that we have always stuck to our ethics, and I think our customers see that, and so while there are bigger brands doing similar things, I think I think people will continue to come to us because they believe us, I think it's like the word sustainable is used left and right, but there's no one really looking, there's no one really, you could write sustainable, you could write anything you want. But I think it's like about building that trust in a certain business. And so for us, I think it's just constantly keeping in touch with our customers. And I think just having that change with them has helped us.
I also think we do sell a lot of really small emerging brands that and because we are retailers too, so we retail a lot of brands, and most of the brands are very small, and I think that's been very beneficial to us. And I think that's what makes us stand out, because you could find things at MooShoes that you won't necessarily be able to find. I mean, I don't know what other store people shop for shoes, but I don't think you're going to find these small, independent, emerging brands at our store. I mean, that at other stores that you will find at our store. So we're lucky that we get to, a lot of times we get to get them first. So.
Awesome. Sounds like you're kind of a launch pad, a springboard for some emerging brands. I'm curious also, Sara and Erica, you are also involved in other businesses. For entrepreneurs in the audience who have multiple businesses, how do you juggle them? How do you manage different types of businesses at the
I mean, this is probably not a good answer, but I always feel like, at least by the day, there's usually like one or the week that needs the most attention. So I think my attention just, moves depending on the week and the needs and the employees, and, it's definitely very specific issues that come up. So, but, in an ideal world, it would be nice to just, have dedicated time, but it just doesn't work like that for us. I don't know, maybe Erica, it does, but not for me.
No, I mean, I think it's exactly what Sara said. I can't count how many times we've been like, okay, today's MooShoes day, and then some emergency, refrigerator break or something at the other place, and you have to just be on top of the thing that needs you the most. And so I don't know if that's. If anyone has advice on other ways to juggle, I would love it. But I think that's what
I will say, like, in every business, we have just the most amazing staff. And I think, like, the only way to manage multiple businesses is to really have amazing people there that you really trust to make decisions, because, like, you just can't do everything, even if you think you can. At some point, you're going to have to relinquish control and pass it along. And our manager at MooShoes, Caitlin, is just, she's so amazing, and we're just so lucky to have her. And, in all ways. And so that's all I could say is get a really great staff that you really trust. And especially that I think that you see eye to eye with ethically.
Thanks. Sandra, what's next for your platform? What are you working on? What's new and exciting that you're working on?
We've just finished a 12-month review and consultation of our brand rating system. So, I mean, many people recognize Good On You as a fun consumer-facing app and website, but sitting behind that, where our core technology is a brand rating system that aggregates hundreds of data points against sustainability indicators for each brand. And I think I mentioned before, the issues and our understanding of the issues are always evolving, and information is really complex and fragmented, and people have different views around what's more important and material. So we just completed an in-depth review using our internal expertise, but also talking to industry, to people that are in fashion, to NGOs that are experts in this space, including the Sustainable Apparel Coalition, Fashion Revolution in the UK, Four Paws, who are animal welfare experts, just to make sure that we have our our finger on the pulse of what those emerging issues are, and that our methodology captures it. And now that we've implemented a lot of those changes, our methodology now more comprehensively looks at new issues around microplastics and their impact in fashion, around the use of certain vegan materials, around gender equality, even how brands responded during COVID, whether they protected workers. So we've just implemented all those changes, and now we want to, I guess, accelerate our tech, our automation around how we collect that data so we can rate more brands more quickly and help more people know the impact of their choices.
Awesome. What about you and Erica and Sarah? What are you working on that's exciting?
I think right now, just it being such a crazy time for everyone, like the simple things are exciting to us again, like getting our retail store open again and seeing our customers face to face again is right now it's exciting, which, the only, but, as far as like what's like right now we're making our fall line for Novacus, and that's always a really fun time of the year for us, and just getting the feedback from that, getting all the samples in from that. And, but, again, that's all about like, it's exciting that like, while of course we're not at the end of this thing, just getting a little normalcy back in our lives has been really great. So working on this line, which is something we've been doing for years. So it's nice to just have that regularity. And I think, yeah, that's what's working for us right now.
No comment, Sarah.
No, I mean, I agree with Erica. Just being in New York while we're, slowly opening up is exciting, and really watching New York evolve through this really uncertain time is, exciting. And I don't know if exciting is the right word, but I agree. Like, I think that, instead of people are focusing on other things, like, they're really thinking about all issues now. So I think it's a great time to be vegan and vegan shoes. And so that's exciting. Just like Erica said, having customers in our store again is very.
I can imagine. I guess my final question for me is, how do we get more entrepreneurs and investors in the space? Entrepreneurs committed to trying to get as many people as possible to start plant-based businesses and then supporting them. What do you think are some ways to get people excited about fashion, which is sometimes an afterthought? I think a lot of effort and focus is placed in food, which is great, but there's also, fashion. So how do we get more people involved?
I mean, I think it's like, I think it's about all these businesses talking to one another, and I think like, it's like everyone is doing so many exciting things. And I think it's like now I'm just thinking about all the ways that like we could maybe work with Sandra after this is over, and like just putting that message forward, and like how we have our retail store and how it is so exciting when a new brand comes on, and we're so excited about that. And so, while there are lots of strains about having a retail store, just being able to be a place where like a small company will know that they could come to us, and we are going to do everything we can to promote them and get them off the ground. While like a bigger store might wait and see how they do. So, I think all of us just working together is a good jumping off point for us right now. Oh.
Do you want to comment, Sandra?
Yeah, I would just say that the conscious consumer trend, whatever you want to call it, is very real, and it's growing, and also the issues that we're as plant-based people and communities are worried about are also really real, and they're growing. I mean, if the fashion industry keeps producing things mindlessly and using materials that cause a lot of harm on people and planet, like that's just not sustainable. So something's got to change, and there's a market there that's waiting for it, and so therefore there's a really exciting opportunity for innovators and creative thinkers to to drive that change that has to happen and that people are asking for.
All right, I think we have our first audience question here. Do you have any particular failures / challenges that have happened to you throughout your journey that you learned from a lot? And this can go to anybody. Maybe Sara, maybe do you want to comment?
I think at one point years ago, we were growing to us really fast. And like I was saying before, we had gotten some really large wholesale accounts and we were so excited, and it actually almost bankrupted us, in the end. And I think, we realized like what works for our business and like what has been able to sustain us for 20 years. So, but other than that, no mistakes. Just kidding.
Yeah, I know. And I think it's just realizing like really, that again, another shout out to our manager for like helping us manage our inventory. And, I think at the beginning it was placing these humongous orders, and then realizing that, also like what Sandra's saying, that, you don't like, it's good to just have like some shoes, because you don't need to, like our products should be good enough that you're not going through shoes all the time. Yes, it's fun to have a lot, but like we want to sell products that are last a really long time. So just, making sure we have like an inventory that's not too large, but still catering to everyone. But just being careful of those numbers, because I think we've all run into that problem very often.
Sandra?
We've definitely had a lot of setbacks. I feel like being an entrepreneur is like always being on a roller coaster. There's really high highs and you take everything personally. So when someone says they don't want to work with you, or they don't want to invest in you, or your services aren't quite right for them, I mean, it can be pretty hard hitting, but you build a lot of resilience and stamina, and we're all motivated. We've got this passion that drives us, and that ultimately is what makes the highs outweigh the lows, I think. And one thing that I've had to learn to be better at is to actually stop and reflect on everything we've achieved. It can feel like you're moving so quickly, and I have a tendency to feel like we're not moving quickly enough. And so stopping and reflecting with your team and all of those people that help you along the way, and celebrating your achievements is really, really important, because I think, when you are working so hard, undoubtedly you are doing some really great things and achieving a lot. Stopping to acknowledge and celebrate those, I think, can make it all worth it, and give you that resilience to keep going and keep winning, and just despite the setbacks along the way that are inevitable.
Thanks for sharing. We have another question from Kathy. Is there a shortage of vegan leathers available for the clothing and automotive markets? Who wants to comment on that?
Sorry, one more time?
Is there a shortage of vegan leathers available for the clothing and automotive markets?
I mean, the only thing that I could think of that we run into is sometimes, and I could be answering this question completely wrong, sometimes there's the availability of like the availabilities of a lot of the basic colors are available. Sometimes when you want to do something that's like a little, like a little different, it's sometimes not available to you, and you have to either invest in producing that, which is sometimes a expense that most businesses can't take on, or you have to maybe settle for a more basic color. Sorry if I got the question wrong. I don't know if that's what you were asking, but.
No, I think
Yeah,
that ties in. And Sandra.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think there's probably a shortage of capital more than there is a shortage in the actual material innovation. There are lots of cool startups and even existing organisations in this space, but they're limited by the costs that it actually takes to produce a vegan material. And if a brand or a retailer or automotive massive company are not making that upfront investment, then it's really hard for them to produce. So yeah, an absence of people that are willing to invest in the materials is, I think, a bigger problem.
Are there any other questions? If not, I want to thank you all for a great conversation. I'm users of all of your products and very much appreciate what you do. Thank you for sharing your stories and your insight into helping other entrepreneurs do so as well. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for having me. It's been great to talk to you all.
Yeah. All right. Thanks again.